All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session, our listening session for the 55th National Council session. This is Margaret Renwand. I'm the Interim Executive Director for USAGSO, and we're so happy that you joined us today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this right over to Maureen O'Neill, and we'll get started. Wait, and Maureen, I forgot. Sorry. If you hover over your participant button, you can click on that and you'll see a list of who is presenting. You can raise your hand if you have a question. You can also give a thumbs up, thumbs down, say you need a coffee break, whatever. So we'll go ahead and get started. Over to you, Maureen.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Margaret, and hello to everyone. I am Maureen O'Neill. I'm a USAGSO delegate from Hong Kong. Actually, today I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, so it's a bit early for me, but it's wonderful to be here with you. And I'll also be joined, by Diane Bochner from Singapore and Simone Jackson from Brasilia, Brazil. So welcome to everyone. And of course, Emily in the New York office. Today, we're going to talk about what process was used to select the USAGSO delegates. And we'll review some of the proposals that'll be talked about at the 55th National Council session. And I realize now, Emily, I need you to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We'll have a chance to review some of those proposals, and we'll have a time to have questions and answers. So let's go ahead and get started. Emily, can I have the next slide, please? So you may be wondering, what is the National Council Session, or NCS? And it is the business meeting of the USA Girl Scouts organization. It happens every 3 years or triannually. And you can kind of think of it like a shareholders meeting at a corporation. There are a total of 1,500 delegates that come from all Girl Scout councils and USAGSO to form the National Council. And the number of delegates you send to National Council depends on your girl membership. So in September 2019, the number of girl members we had in USAGSO Council allowed us to send 7 delegates and 5 alternates. And that is comprised of 5 adult delegates and 2 girl delegates. And as our alternates, 2 girls and 3 adults. We're going to talk about the proposals and how they're selected for in just a minute. But first, let's go ahead to the next slide. And I'd like to introduce you to your USAGSO delegates and alternates. This is the process that was used to select us. The USAGSO Council Advisors Development Committee put out a call last November for applicants to serve as delegates. And after a rigorous vetting process of over 80 applicants, the Development Committee recommended, and the Council of Advisors voted to approve this slate of delegates and alternates. The committee made sure that there was representation from all regions of USAGSO, and that it includes military, civilian, and State Department constituencies. Emily, next slide, please. All right, well, since we're talking about National Council and the democratic process, let's kind of get inspired by some notable quotes from some amazing women. I'll give you a moment to look at these. I think a lot of us are familiar with the quote from Julia Gordon-Low, but boy, I love that one from Shirley Chisholm about bring a folding chair to the decision-making table if you're not invited. That's awesome. But let's go ahead, and if you want to write in the chat box the author of the quote that really resonates with you. Let's see what you're thinking.
Okay, so you can go ahead and add your thoughts to the chat box. See, from Singapore, their favorite is always from Julie Gordon Lowe. What we do today matters into the future. And we've got, for some reason, I can't get mine to take. All right, for me, it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Simone said, same with her, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, seemingly so obvious, but easy to forget. Okay, thanks everyone for sharing your ideas.
Great, and Emily, the next slide, please. All right, well, we're gonna continue to think about democracy and the democratic process. Here's a prompt for you. Can you please answer why you think the democratic process is important in Girl Scouts? Why don't we take a minute, write in the chat box what you think about that.
And one of the things we have in there is that it's a voice for all.
Yes, I think I would absolutely agree with that. We've also heard allows Girl Scouts to be truly girl-led, for sure. That's absolutely true. And another viewer has said, because our organization is held accountable to the membership. It's not just about us having a voice and being represented. It's about all the checks and balances. The board is accountable to the girls. And I would absolutely agree with that. I think the democratic process is absolutely intrinsic to the Girl Scout movement, whether you have a group of girls in a brownie ring deciding where to go on a field trip, to the deliberations of the 1,500 delegates at the National Council, that voice for everyone to make their views known and respectfully listened to, and compromises made between different people with different ideas, absolutely is very key part of the Girl Scout movement, in my opinion. And it's really a real privilege to be a part of that at the National Council session this year. I know my fellow delegates and alternates would agree completely with that. Thank you. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to the next slide. This slide will give you some idea of what the responsibilities are for the delegates and alternates at the National Council. One of the responsibilities that we have as delegates is to get your thoughts in regard to the proposals that will be discussed at the meeting. And we take this feedback to help us inform our decisions when voting on the proposals. But one thing to keep in mind is that while we are absolutely wanting and appreciative of hearing your thoughts, each delegate votes for their own personal feelings of what they think is best for Girl Scouts and the Girl Scouts movements. So I would say that this session is to inform delegates, but not to instruct them on their vote. Proposals also will be amended most likely during the National Council session. So they could actually be, the actual decision could be a lot different looking than the proposals we'll look at today. But of course, that's a part of the democratic process. So it's something that we will look forward to. Can we have the next slide, please? All right, well, this is gives you an overview of how proposals do get placed on the National Council session agenda. There's different processes for how a proposal might appear during the meeting. Two ways that the proposals come to the national agenda is one, a council will write a proposal and send it to other Girl Scout councils to endorse it. It is then sent to the national board. The national board will decide whether or not it is placed on the agenda. However, if the board declines to place it on the agenda, councils have the option of asking other councils to endorse their proposal. And if 15% of the councils say, yes, this should be on the agenda, which is 17 councils at this time, the proposal must be placed on the National Council Session agenda. Also, the National Board of Girl Scouts or a committee, if they develop a proposal, the board votes to place it directly on the agenda and the councils are notified. So for 2020 at NCS, there are 6 agenda items and we're going to review each one. And hopefully you've had a chance to look these over before you joined us today. But if not, Diane and Simone will walk us through them. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I really appreciate you going over that. And like you, I'm really, it's just been such a great experience being a delegate and learning about the process. So make sure we have a sound check. I hope you can hear me. If you can, go ahead and move us to the next slide. Great, thank you. So these are the proposals. I'm sorry, hold on just a second. Get my notes. Here are the 6 proposals that we have, and we'll go down into each of them. And so just real quickly, the overview, we've got a Gold Award Task Force talking about establishing a scholarship foundation, so a constitutional amendment, which is going to then change the way we do our delegate terms. Then there are 3 about dues. One's a constitutional amendment, one's a procedure of communication, and one is a restriction on dues. So and then the last one is a lifetime membership discount. So thanks again for coming and you know, to this discussion of the proposals. So next slide. Sorry, I think we need to go forward, if we could. Okay, so while some of the proposals, could we go to the next one? We're talking about the Gold Award.
Oh, sure. Sorry, one moment.
Fantastic. So while some of the proposals this year are a little controversial, there's this one I don't think is. This proposal will establish a task force that will review the idea of Gold Award scholarships. It does not propose the creation of Gold Award scholarships. And so the driving motivation behind this is primarily to raise the profile of Gold Award and ensure it gets the level of publicity and makes the difference on college applications, you know, coincident to, you know, to other awards for other youth movements. So next slide. And you can see the highlights for this rationale on this slide. The thinking is that a group of people would be appointed to study the factors in the first 3 bullets at the bottom of the slide and the 4th bullet on this slide. When the study is done, and if the group recommends setting up a foundation, then that foundation will increase the number of Gold Award scholarships and elevate the importance of the Gold Award. The National Board of Directors does recommend approval of this proposal, and because this is a formation of a task group, it needs a simple majority of the delegates to approve it, which is 51%. So if you would like to share your thoughts now, we can certainly go to Mike and hear what you think about this proposal.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at this time. You can unmute yourself since we have a small group today.
And I did get a private chat. Somebody was asking if they were supposed to be here. And yes, this webinar, this discussion, this presentation is for all adults and scouts in the movement, specifically for the Overseas Council.
Okay, I'm not hearing any questions or seeing anything in the chat box, so.
I do have a quick question. I mean, would these scholarships, Melinda here, sorry. Would these scholarships,
Hi,
hello, only applicable to US colleges, or would they also be applicable, since we're overseas Girl Scouts, would they be applicable to organizations or universities outside the US?
So it's a fantastic point, Melinda, and great to see you. That is a feedback I think we should feed into the task force, right? So that's a great point, that not all the girls will be attending US-based colleges, and that we should explore how to make the scholarships applicable worldwide. I think that's a great input, and we'll feed that back to the task force. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, let's go to the next one. We're going to start into some of the a little bit more controversial, if you will. So the next proposal is which originated with the National Board, would require a constitutional amendment. So that requires a 2/3 vote, and it compels the board to consult with councils before making a decision to raise dues. So this proposal does limit the freedom of the National Board to raise dues without consulting the membership. So some of you may remember in 2017, the board raised dues from $15 to $25. There was a lot of pushback at the time from councils, especially from councils that do a lot of internal funding for membership for economically disadvantaged scouts. So the board would then propose to the councils, and they would get the input from councils and National Council Delegates, and then it can make changes to the dues. And I'm going to just keep pressing because just to the next slide, if you would. So this would be the commitment of seeking input from the council and the delegates.
So what does that mean, seeking input? They're going to like ask two councils, or are they going to ask all the councils, or how are they going to receive this input?
So one of the things that we've learned by doing the triennial council or triennial meeting virtually, and is that there is a way to, without getting the entire National Council together, to have discussions. And so the current thinking is that it would look something like what we've been doing in our ramp up to the triennial meeting, where they would have listening sessions with various council delegates across the world and hear the different inputs and different views and perspectives. So because it's a constitutional amendment, it was deemed that we did not get too prescriptive as to the how on this, because that we need some flexibility in that. Okay, and then if we could go to the next slide, because it kind of shows these two proposals together, right? So because proposals come in separately, these two proposals, which are pretty similar, we're going to discuss them together because they are similar. So proposal 2 has two main ideas. First, it does add specific language to our Constitution, and then it explicitly puts in the Constitution a requirement for the board to engage in communication. Now, proposal 3 then goes ahead and establishes those new procedures, right? How the fund's proposed dues changes, how the funds would be used, potential impact on the movement. So the board would report out on any decisions and the impact of that change. Now, in reality, Girl Scout has been working this way for years. Sometimes due changes are in proposals, like in the lifetime membership discount proposal that you'll hear about shortly. Those changes are decided on by the National Council. The National Board then takes action on dues in between National Council sessions. And in the last 6 years, the National Council has decided to make membership categories more flexible, right? The National Board created discounted dues for extended membership year for girls and adults, as well as promotions for short periods of time to allow people to sign up for lifetime memberships at a discount. Now, because there's been some disagreement among our members about what the Constitution really says, these proposals make the responsibility for dues clear by doing these three things, right? Confirming the shared authority that the National Council and the National Board have for setting dues, placing squarely in the Constitution a requirement for communication and transparency, and then describing the information that will be shared before and after the National Board makes decisions. So they make sure that all parts of our democratic movement governance system work together and that there's an informed decision-making that's in the best interest of all of us and the members of the Girl Scouting movement. So the National Board does recommend approval of both of these proposals. And because Proposal 2 is a constitutional amendment, it will need a 2/3 majority or 66%. Proposal 3 is not a constitutional amendment and therefore it needs a simple majority. So I'm going to pause here because this one is, it's a bit complex.
Any questions on this one? And I'm guessing that this one will probably, both of these proposals may have some amendments to them. And it will be a lively debate on, on these proposals in regard to membership dues.
Yeah, absolutely. And the workshops moving, getting ready for this. These have always generated a fair amount of discussion and energy. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it over to Simone to keep talking a little bit about dues and go over the rest of the proposals. Simone?
Hello. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as Diane said, this amendment or this proposal also discusses dues in a sense. This is where two councils have formulated a proposal to limit the freedom that the board has to increase dues to a specific percentage over the 3 years between the triennial national council meetings. And so 25% to be specific. This proposal received a lot of endorsement, and in a lot of the discussions that we've had in the lead up to the council meeting, it's pointed to a level of distrust between the councils and the national council. And so they're looking at arguments. So we'll be looking at the arguments that are placed on the floor regarding this one in particular, but initially the board disapproved of this. What's noteworthy is that after listening to the delegates discuss it in the various discussion meetings, the board changed their view and decided to endorse this proposal. So while I do expect some discussion, it is notable that the board actually listened to its membership and supported specific restrictions on themselves at the recommendation of some local councils. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, here is the rationale for the restrictions, and it is 25% in 3 years, so that would be the limit. Right now, based on the current dues cost, that would be $6.25 over 3 years. And this is about allowing councils to plan and to keep membership affordable for their members. The last point is that the council thinks that this will be good for everyone. But as I said before, the national board initially didn't approve it, but they have supported it now. So that is a good step forward. And councils that really rely on themselves to provide subsidies to membership and fund their members for their members that may need financial assistance really were concerned about this. And so this was their way to sort of help keep it manageable. Does anyone have any question on this proposal, including in light of the other dues proposal?
And just to put some perspective on this, USAGSO spends between $25,000 and $30,000 a year for financial assistance for membership. So, but there are a lot of councils stateside that spend close to $1 million. So a 25% increase is a huge increase for them. So it's just something to keep in perspective as our delegates are listening to the arguments on the floor.
Great. Can we go to the next slide, please, if there are no more questions?
Actually, I have a quick question. How are we going to fund this? So like, yeah, they're going to, so I mean, I understand what you're saying. Most of the funding comes from us paying more dues, but obviously there are these councils who subsidize other people who can't pay that. So where are they supposed to be getting these funds?
Well, and that's the concern of those councils. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Simone.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that's the concern. That's where the councils are concerned. I've worked in a council before that had entire troops that were funded by council fees. And it's very difficult for them to plan if they do not get sufficient notice. It's hard for them to increase their fundraising and make sure that they have that additional funding for those girls that need to be subsidized. And then also other things are dependent on that. So some councils set their, troop dues subsidies based on the national council registration amount. And so there's sort of a knock-on effect to those troops, particularly those that have a lot of people that need assistance.
Melinda, one source for funding these aid packages, in a previous council I was in, when you would go to renew your membership for the year, or you would register for a program, or you would buy something online for our council, there was always the option, would you like to help fund a girl who can't afford her membership fee? So you could always add that on. And I always did that because I was lucky enough to be able, I only have one daughter, I have 2 sons, and so when I would renew her membership, I always took the box, yes, I would like to help another girl be part of Girl Scouting. And that's not something councils can plan on, like especially in 2020 with COVID, times are tough and people aren't probably making as many donations. So if the if National Council raises the membership dues, so people are worried, where is all that extra funding going to come from? Our council also had some grants and some funding that they got from local charities to help pay for girls to be involved. But like you said, all that's not a dependable source of money to help fund those girls. And so if there was, the concern is if there was a large increase, these councils would then have to turn girls away. And so, but you would hope that the national board that we elect wouldn't do something like that, that they would do it slowly and it would be for the right reasons. But it's, a lot of councils just want that guarantee, that you're going to talk to us, that we're going to have transparency, that we're going to be able to plan. People they want to be able to know that it's not going to be something that's going to cause girls.
It's a protection. That's all it is, really. Am I the only one on here who's not on the council? Because you guys are all saying this. You guys are all meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning just for me. That seems awful.
I'm 2:30 in the afternoon in Greece. So.
Okay. Well, I feel bad. I mean, you guys already all know this. I can go read on it. It's okay.
No, actually, Melinda, this was scheduled an opportunity for our members to hear this. And we're actually recording this session so that we can put it on the USAGSO website. And we're happy to be here.
Thank you. I know it's even earlier for you, Margaret. It's like 6 in the morning for you. So thank you.
We're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
I'm nosy. I want to know.
Great, so let's go ahead and if there are no more questions on that one, move to the constitutional amendment on consistency in delegate terms. So this is about those of us who are delegates to the National Council. And this one has pretty widespread support to get the delegates involved in the process earlier, keep them involved later, and make sure they're involved in the process of training their replacements. It increases the profile, involvement, and responsibility of the delegates, and it ensures the delegates are more invested in their role. It's not just about attending the convention every 3 years, it's also what happens in between that period of time. So the reasons that councils like the idea is 6 months is not a lot of time to get current on all the issues, understand the parliamentary procedures, and delegates were being elected at different times throughout the year, so some only had a limited amount of time. Also, if the councils elected their delegates earlier, this would give Girl Scouts USA an opportunity to provide more educational opportunities about the topics and help councils provide support for us to learn what the council sessions are about. It would also lead to a better experience overall because delegates' terms would have a more logical pattern. So it would be to give input into the National Council session and what's considered there. It would be to attend the sessions to discuss and debate those items, and then end your term by reporting back to council and helping to transition to your successor on your successor as a National Council delegate. The board recommends approving this proposal of widespread approval in the debates. The only concern is for those who are delegates this time, some of them would have their term shortened a little bit, but overall this seems to be something that people support. Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas on this one?
How many delegates do we have?
We have 7, Melinda, and that's based on our membership. So we have 5 adult delegates and two girl delegates.
I didn't mean just USAGSO. I just meant in general. How many?
1,500.
Yeah, it's a lot.
All right. So we can go to the last point, last proposal, which is the lifetime membership discount. So this proposal is aimed at ensuring that active volunteers become lifetime members and remain connected to the movement. There's some discussion about, wording and what constitutes a registered member and has served as volunteer, etc. Those are things that can be amended at the council sessions. And there's also a question as to how Girl Scouts USA can actually check the status of members, since the systems for monitoring that haven't been consistent. But this one is another one where where the board has decided to support a proposal instead of going against it after listening to the delegate discussion. Just in summary, this would offer a discounted lifetime membership to people who have been registered volunteer for 10 or more years. Or who has served as a volunteer for 10 or more years. And so that gets into the question, well, how do we track 10 years? Do the records go back that far? All those things are sort of questions of implementation, but overall, it seems that there's a lot of support for encouraging people who have many, many years as a volunteer to be able to get this discounted lifetime membership. And then it'll allow them to, come in and come out as they have time for or desire to, without having to keep paying over decades even. Any questions or other input on that one?
I see some language in here about how old you are. So if you have been
we're only looking at the green part.
Okay.
The black part was a previous amendment. The green part is the proposal. So the other part is to give girls who were in Girl Scouts before the age of 18, before they turn 30, a discount, because they're college students or they've just started their job and they don't have a lot of money. So they wanted to give them a chance to become a lifetime membership, maybe become a volunteer leader at a discounted rate. So that part in black, we're not allowed to touch that part. We were only looking at the green section.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So that is the last proposal. I'll turn it back over to, I guess, Emily, are we running a poll now?
Yeah, so we're gonna get everybody's input on this. So Emily's gonna go ahead and put up a poll. It's all on the same sheet, so you just scroll down and click yes or no. And this will help guide our delegates as they go into deliberations in just a couple of weeks, starting on the 23rd. So Emily, if you could post the poll, please.
Sure, just one moment. This is just taking a sec.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Those things are tricky sometimes.
For sure. Well, it sure doesn't want to come up this morning. Must be too early for the polling places in New York this morning.
Oh, really?
So what's everybody doing in Girl Scouts this week? Anybody doing anything interesting while we're waiting?
Well, I will say that, tomorrow is the International Day of the Girl. And the National Gold Award Girl Scouts, there's actually a webinar today at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So early in the morning in Singapore. And I think it'll be recorded, but it's the girls are going to be presenting their awards. They had a little session on Thursday evening, and I will tell you, I was in tears listening to these young women and the impact of their projects and the passion that they had behind them. I mean, it was really moving, and it just like so proud. I was so proud of them. So Emily, are we doing these individually today?
Yes, is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. It seems like that's how it wants to come up today. So the first one is the establishment of the task force to examine the feasibility of a National Gold Award scholarship. So you can vote yes or no, and once you click your choice, then hit the submit button. Okay. And if we have the next item up. I'll tell you what, since we're having problems with this, let's just, if you go to your participation block and check that, there is a thing that says yes or no. If you click on the participant box, you'll see who's on, and there's a raise hand, yes, no. So let's go to proposal number 2, which is the amendment to the Constitution for committing the dues decisions being made by the national board and the delegate body or council. So constitutional amendment on membership. Well, there it is. We can vote on the poll. So click yes or no, and then hit submit on that one. And we'll go ahead and, are we able to get the next poll up, Emily? I'll put my screen on. It's starting to get light in Ohio now.
Good morning. Margaret, do you have a lot of these like, middle of the night meetings for you?
Yes. I'm really getting used to getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So, which is not something I thought I'd ever say. Okay, for the constitutional amendment, 100% of the folks said yes.
One.
On that one, and then we'll go to proposal number 3, which is the procedure for communicating on this constitutional amendment on membership. Look, it's early and I even have lipstick on.
No problem. Lipstick's really the key. You don't have to do anything else.
Yeah. Okay, obviously the poll that's up right now is on the dues restriction. So that's that 25% on dues restriction. So we can vote yes or no on that one and hit submit. And Emily, can we pull the one up on the, why don't we just do a hand raising poll or yes or no poll on this one? This is the poll on the procedure for implementing that constitutional amendment on membership dues. Because we have, so before you vote on the consistency of delegate terms, if we could just see a yes or no on the other one. Well, maybe it's not going to let us do that. Here we go. Yes. Okay, we got 100% on that one too, it looks like.
There we go.
Sorry, is that
okay. Okay, and now the constitutional amendment on consistency in delegate terms. You'll vote on that one. That's the one that's making the timing of all of them the same. And then finally, we have the dues for, or the amendment to allow a discount for those who have volunteered for 10 years or more for the lifetime membership. And we'll vote yes or no on that one. Oh, I'm having a hard time navigating my screen this morning. And it looks like we've got 100% on that one as well. Or Maureen has it. There we go. We'll use our tools. We can vote it on it again. Yes or no, and submit. You just got to run with how the technology wants to go. All right.
My computer's being a little finicky this morning.
Happens.
Absolutely. That's why you just got to learn to roll with the technology. Okay, and I think that is it. Anyone, if Emily, we go to the last slide.
One moment.
See, everybody voted on the lifetime membership discount. Okay, so if you have additional thoughts or comments, or if you have questions, feel free to email two of our delegates who are also members of our Council of Advisors. They're compiling this information to share with the rest of our delegates and alternates. Kathleen Fitzsimmons, that's K Fitzsimmons at USAGSO.org, or to Franny Puente Bonilla at USAGSO.org. And they'll compile that information. I want to thank our presenters today, Simone, Diane, and Maureen. Melinda, thank you for joining us. And Melissa, also, thank you for joining us to be our backup in case we had technical difficulties with any of the other presenters today. And Emily, thank you so much for getting up on a Saturday morning to run our technology. And if there's no other questions, I wish you all a great rest of your day, whatever time it is where you are.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks. Hey, and Margaret, just as a last reminder, can we make sure that we get Melinda's suggestion about the Gold Award scholarships being available to girls overseas?
Absolutely. If that proposal passes, I will make sure that our input is included.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.